Well, hello everyone. How are you? This is Esther Molina from Spain. I'm a journalist specialized in innovation and in technology, also in startups and entrepreneurship. I currently write for Forbes here in Spain and another newspaper here in Spain, who's called D plus I El Español. I'm also the co-founder of my PR agency, WILDCom, and of the Female Startup Leaders Association, a community where we are bringing together the founders of the most innovative Spanish-speaking startups. So we continue in this global metaverse forum, and now we are going to start a very interesting panel, which it's called the visibility of women in the metaverse. We have already seen that both the metaverse and Web3 in general are going to lead this new digital paradigm. And yes, in this new paradigm, we continue to find gender gaps, of course. The metaverse, still in the experimental moment that we are all living, already has several particular challenges for women. From the design of the hardware to the interaction with unknown users, researchers are discovering that, as in almost everything in the metaverse, one does not live the same as a man or as a woman. How can gender be an important variable in a digital world, but just as real as the physical world? This is important because just because it's digital, it doesn't mean that it's less real. This is important. We are going to speak with the speakers, of course, of the panel, which I want to say hello right now. We have, for example, Alex Porter. She's CEO and founder of Modtech's Lab. How are you, Alex?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here to talk about this important topic.
Thank you. Thank you to you. And we also have Nova Lorraine from Yebu Ambassador. How are you, Nova?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Thank you, guys, for participating. I really want to hear from you. To begin with, actually, I would like you to tell us what the company you lead are. I mean, for example, Alex, what do you guys do in Modtech Labs?
Yeah, absolutely. So Modtech Labs is an automated solution to make 3D content for any type of virtual world. So we take photos, videos, scans, or meshes. We do the 3D content creation or the optimization for the given playback device or platform. So really simplifying the ability to actually make interoperable content and ultimately expand the use case of content and the ability for anyone to make it more effectively.
That's great. And Nova, you're ambassador from Yubo. Am I right? Yubo is the name?
WiiU, yes. I'm an ambassador for WiiU, which is a
WiiU. That's
yes,
right. What do you do in WiiU?
Yeah, well, I support the team sharing the news around NFTs, marketplaces, crypto, where we offer access to founders, to creators that want to launch their own NFT projects and do it in an easy way, but then also allow their customers, their users, their community to more easily access those digital assets. In addition to that, I'm also an advisor to several projects and an ambassador also to the Fashion League, which supports bringing more young women and women into the space of Web3 and technology as well. And as a founder and creator for Raindrops NFT Art House and a lead for a new Metaverse World, which we'll be announcing soon. Very, very passionate about increasing the number of women leaders and women creators within technology. And of course, we know the future of tech is all things Web3 at the moment. And we've also heard Web4, Web5 coming very quickly down the way.
That sounds great. Thank you. And how do you think, both of you, how do you think women could influence the construction of the metaverse? What experience with the metaverse do you have at this moment? For example, Alex.
Yeah, so we've been in what I consider the greater technology space for the metaverse. So it's that sort of alphabet soup of acronyms. So AR, VR, MR, XR, AI, IoT, ML, all the things, right? What I look at as far as Web3 and the metaverse, which I consider two sides of the same coin, to be honest, is that all of these combinations of technologies are coming together now. They've been in silos, so they've been sort of disconnected and they haven't been very functional together yet. But we're seeing now they're all converging into what we're starting to form as the early metaverse. And so we've been in this space with both companies. So this company is about 3 years old. Our previous company was an XR studio that we ran for 5 years. So we created from scratch a ton of experiences, primarily on the corporate side, geared toward training, education, and sort of functional AR VR tools in the early days, rather than entertainment based. And so our focus has always been on how do we enable more people to access this technology in an approachable way that allows them to actually grow their prospects in the world, right? Learning in VR is much more effective. Using AR is a much better training tool because you can have that interaction of the physical and the digital, right? So there are so many wonderful implications and opportunities that haven't been widely explored yet. And we're seeing on the women's side, of course, is that it's super important to not only think about that. You mentioned the hardware side. There are literally some issues with the hardware. So women tend to have smaller interpupillary distance, meaning their eyes are closer together. This can also translate into different ethnicities as well. That tends to be can be a problem. So these things need to be accounted for, and we need to have hardware that's more flexible for women to actually be able to more functionally use it. Hand controllers obviously are sort of one size fits all at this point. So there's a wide variety of places in the hardware space that we can iterate. On the software side, of course, it is everything from bringing more women onto your team so they can be represented, they can actually have a piece and a part in the creation of these experiences because they bring a different perspective than their male team members would. And I think it's a wide problem that, people assume that, oh, if I'm going to be in technology, I have to be a technologist. I have to be a coder. I am not a coder. I am on the business side, but I've been in the tech world. I've been in the tech world for 8 years, very deep into emerging technology. And I think it's important to remember that even in technology, you can be there, you can be a part of it, you can be a support, because we still need accounting, we still need marketing, we still need all of these sort of more traditional job roles that don't include coding or really heavy technical skills. So I think that's sort of where I sit. And I mentor also with Girls in Tech, and a couple of other programs that are particularly around educating from a very young age. Hey, girls, if you're interested in this, let's get you that STEM education. Let's get you access to the tools and the coding things that you want and need. Let's get you into things that could be applicable in that world. Go explore your passions and take it on full force.
Yeah, I'm absolutely, completely agree with you. Nova, what do you think? Are you agree with Alex? What do you think about the woman rule in this construction of the metaverse?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree with Alex. I mean, the role of women is so important because we bring such a unique perspective and different interests coming into the space. We saw the rise of gaming, which is really exciting and wonderful, and on a lot of technologists and coders coming in. But we know, from the onset, that area did not have a lot of diversity in it to begin with. And so when you're looking at Web3 and you're looking at the metaverse as the beginning of a new paradigm, and it's very skewed based on who the initial builders are, is it truly going to serve all? We see the internet now in serving so many aspects of our lives, right? Entertainment, education, and work, And so if we're looking at the future of the internet and doing all those things and only a small percentage of individuals are builders, then we're doing a disservice to the community at large. What I've seen specifically in terms of what women are bringing in, those that are leading projects and creating projects, are they're looking at sustainability more than the male counterparts, and not just sustainability as it relates to eco-friendly objectives, but also in durability. Are these projects going to sustain over time? Are they going to be around for 5 or 10 years? Looking at the profit as, from the onset as secondary, but more mindful projects are the priority. Also looking at bridging the gap between who they're working with. I see a lot of women leaders really reaching out and creating those bridges for those that are in Web 2 to come into Web 3, those that are already in the space, working collaboratively together. So it's definitely more of let's rise together sort of a mindset as it relates to a lot of women working in this space. And then the interest that they're bringing, there's a lot of educational platforms that are being created by women that are offering this knowledge to the greater community. In terms of NFTs, a lot of these projects have very charitable mission-driven objectives as well. A lot of empowerment initiatives. So I feel when we're increasing diversity, especially as it relates to gender within the space of technology, you're going to get a more balanced view, more balanced ideas, and how those ideas are executed. We're talking about worlds right now. We're talking about immersive environments. And if they're only built, again, by a small fraction of builders that come with a specific interest and skill set, then those that are participating in those worlds and environments are going to feel a little left out based on features, based on what's brought in from an experiential standpoint. And so I think that it's imperative that we have a more balanced representation of women within the space, IoT, Web3, the Metaverse, AR, VR, AI, all of those things. And it's going to take those of us that are in the space to be intentional and reaching out across the water, being that bridge and bringing them on board.
Mm-hmm. And do you think, are there barriers or stoppers with which women can feel intimidated, maybe, especially when they are starting in the metaverse and in Web3 and, in general? What do you think about this, Alex?
Absolutely. Even if you think about the slew of sort of definitions that you need to understand, what are all of these things and how are they applicable to me and the thing that I want to build or I want to be involved with? There are a lot of sort of conflicting definitions at this point. There's not a lot of standardization, and so even finding the right place to start sometimes is challenging. And so I definitely encourage women to look at some of the standards committees that are being formed, and these are sort of pockets that are a little bit more sort of geared potentially from particular companies, but I find that there are a lot of groups. So Kronos, for instance, is one, the Consumer Technology Association. I'm positive that there are some great standards groups happening in Europe too. I'm just not familiar with what they are right now. We're a little bit more US focused at this time, but Consumer Technology Association, we actually work with them on the standard side. So their big show is CES, the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, every January. Their standards and sort of lobbying side, if you will, is created to specifically vie for technologists, on behalf of technologists in regard to, regulatory, essentially, and standardization and best practices. And so finding a good resource to understand, how all these things come together. There are some metaverse